The vast city of Thales rose like a living jewel under the twin suns. Towers of crystal and silver shimmered across the horizon, and streams of energy lights wove through the skies like rivers in the air. To the human eye, it was breathtaking, almost unreal. Captain Elias stood at the edge of the landing platform, his boots pressing against the polished surface that felt alive beneath him. He was the first human chosen to step into the Grand Council of the Galaxy, and the weight of that moment pressed heavily on his shoulders. The escort guards, tall and elegant with scales that reflected the light, walked silently beside him. They were Thalessians, proud and disciplined, their movements graceful yet precise like a dance of warriors. Though they did not speak, Elias could feel their sharp eyes watching him, curious and cautious. To them, he was a representative of a young and fragile race, one that had only just learned to cross the stars. They wondered if he was ready to stand among ancient powers. Elias kept his step steady. His uniform was simple but neat, dark navy with the symbol of Earth stitched proudly over his chest. His heart beat fast, yet he held his head high. He thought of the millions of people back home who depended on him. They had no great fleets, no vast empires, only determination. And now all of that rested in him, a single man walking into a chamber filled with leaders who had ruled the stars for thousands of years. As the gates of the council chamber opened, a blinding glow spilled out. The hall stretched wider than any cathedral on earth, its ceiling painted with moving constellations that shifted like the real sky above. Alien rulers filled the room, seated in grand circles of stone and light. Their forms were strange and diverse. Some were scaled like dragons, others were feathered like birds, and some seemed woven from pure energy. They murmured in low tones as they watched the human step inside. At the far end of the chamber sat Queen Sirathis of the Thalessian Dominion. Her throne was carved from a single shard of radiant crystal, and her tall figure glowed softly under the light. She was regal and commanding, with silver eyes that burned with both wisdom and strength. She had ruled for centuries and was known across the galaxy as one of the most powerful monarchs alive. Many feared her name, and many sought her approval. The guards guided Elias to the center of the chamber. His footsteps echoed in the silence as thousands of alien eyes followed him. Whispers passed between council members. He is so young. Only one world behind him. A fragile creature of flesh. Elias felt the weight of their doubt pressing on him, but he stood tall, refusing to let fear show. He knew he was small compared to them, but he also knew that humanity had always been underestimated. Then came the moment that stunned the galaxy. As Elias raised his eyes to meet Queen Sirathis, her silver gaze locked with his. Time seemed to slow. For a long heartbeat, no one moved, and the chamber grew so quiet that Elias could hear his own breath. And then, without warning, the queen rose from her throne. The entire council watched in disbelief as she stepped down the crystal stairs and walked slowly toward him. The guards stiffened, unsure of what was happening. Elias himself froze, uncertain if this was some kind of test or insult. But then, before the gathered rulers of the galaxy, the mighty Queen of Thales bent her knee and lowered her head in front of him. A wave of shock spread across the chamber. Gasps echoed through the air. Never before had Sirathis knelt to anyone. She was a queen who bowed to no power, not even to empires greater than her own. Yet here she was, kneeling to a human who had just arrived among the stars. Elias felt his breath catch in his chest. He had no words. He had not expected this, nor did he understand it. The council erupted in noise. Some shouted in confusion, others in anger, while some stared in awe. For them, This was not just a gesture, it was history being rewritten before their very eyes. But the queen spoke with a calm and clear voice that silenced the chamber. "Honor to the child of earth," she said. "Respect to the one who carries the strength of many worlds." Elias stood frozen, his heart racing. He realized that his mission had changed in that single moment. He had not only come to represent humanity. Now, he carried a mystery that shook the galaxy itself. And the question on every mind was simple: why had the Queen of Thelis bowed to a human? The chamber remained filled with shock. Even after Queen Sirathis rose from her kneeling position, the echo of her actions stayed heavy in the air. Alien leaders murmured, their voices rising and falling in disbelief. Some demanded answers, some whispered about old prophecies, and others simply stared at the human who had caused the impossible to happen. Captain Elias felt the eyes of the galaxy press on him. He had prepared for diplomacy, for speeches, for doubt and rejection, but he had not prepared for this. He stood frozen, trying to understand why the most powerful queen in the council had shown him such deep respect. The queen turned to face the council. Her silver eyes scanned the rulers who surrounded them. Her voice carried across the chamber, calm yet firm, the kind of voice that left no room for interruption. "Many of you wonder why I bent my knee to this man," she said. "It was not weakness. It was not politics. It was recognition. Recognition of a truth written in our oldest records." Her words stirred the chamber even more. Some rulers leaned forward with sudden interest, while others frowned, their disbelief deepening. Elias listened carefully as Sirathis continued. "Long ago, before our dominion spread to the stars, before we mastered the energy rivers, our ancestors spoke of a prophecy. It was said that one day, a child from a distant world of blue and green would rise among the stars. That child would not come with vast armies or endless lifespans. They would come fragile, yet unbroken. Weak in flesh, yet strong in spirit. A flame that could not be extinguished." Gasps and low voices filled the room. Elias blinked in surprise. A prophecy? About Earth? About humans? He struggled to process what he was hearing. The queen raised her hand, and silence returned. For centuries, many dismissed this legend as myth. But our archives hold records of your world, Elias of Earth. The human struggle has been observed before. Your people's will to endure is unlike any other. When others would surrender, humans rise again. When others break, humans adapt. The prophecy speaks of such a being. I believe that being stands before us today." The weight of her words crashed down on Elias. He wanted to speak, to argue that he was no chosen one, no symbol of destiny, just a soldier who had been sent on a mission. But his voice failed him. He could only stand, trying to hold steady under the heavy silence of the chamber. Not all were convinced. A tall alien with burning red eyes and scaled armor rose from his seat. He belonged to the Kryth Dominion, a warlike empire known for conquest. His voice cut through the hall like a blade. "This is madness," he declared. "To kneel before a human, a species barely learning to crawl among the stars. You call this prophecy truth? It is weakness. The queen dishonors herself. The galaxy does not bow to myths." Several rulers murmured in agreement. Others remained quiet, clearly unsure which side to take. Queen Sirathis stood tall, her gaze unshaken. "Then watch, and you will see. This human carries more strength than you understand." Elias felt a storm of emotions within him. He had not asked for this. He had come only to speak for Earth, to show that his people wished for peace and cooperation. Now he was being called the subject of a legend. His hands tightened at his sides as he forced himself to breathe calmly. Another voice rose, this one softer, belonging to a feathered elder from the Lemurian clans. The prophecy is old, the elder said. But the signs are there. Humans have endured great hardship. Their world has survived wars, disasters, and divisions. Yet always they rise. Perhaps there is truth here. The debate spread across the chamber. Some leaders scoffed, calling humanity unworthy. Others, curious, began to wonder if there was something hidden behind their simple appearance. Through it all, Elias remained silent. He was torn between pride and disbelief. Pride that his people were being recognized, disbelief that they might be part of something so ancient and vast. At last, Queen Sirathis turned to him again. Her expression was calm, almost kind. Captain Elias, she said, you carry the hopes of your people. And now you also carry the weight of prophecy. You may not believe it, but others will. The galaxy will test you. And you must be ready. Elias swallowed hard. He had faced battles before, but this felt heavier than any war. For the first time since leaving Earth, he realized that his journey was no longer just about diplomacy. It was about survival, not only for himself but for the honor of humanity. And somewhere deep inside, he felt a spark of determination. If this was the path laid before him, he would walk it. Not because of prophecy, but because humans had always walked forward, no matter how dark the road. The council chamber remained restless after the Queen's shocking words. Some leaders stared at Captain Elias with new respect, while others whispered with sharp tones of doubt. The story of the prophecy spread like fire across the chamber, and the name of Earth was suddenly on every tongue. Yet not all saw honor in this moment. Elias stood firm, though inside his thoughts were tangled. He was proud of his people, but he was not sure how to carry such a burden. To be seen as a symbol of prophecy felt like wearing armor far too heavy for one man. He reminded himself that he was not alone. He carried the spirit of humanity with him. That thought gave him strength. But strength alone was not enough to calm the storm that had begun. The Kryth Dominion's representative, Lord Varuk, moved closer to the center of the chamber. His scales gleamed like iron under the lights, and his red eyes burned with anger. His voice rang out clearly. This is nothing but illusion, Varuk declared. The Queen speaks of prophecy, but prophecy is only a tale for the weak to cling to. Humanity is small, untested, and fragile. How many fleets do they command? How many colonies do they hold? None of worth. And yet we are asked to believe they carry destiny? No. They will bring ruin, not strength. Several rulers nodded, their faces grim. Murmurs of agreement spread. Doubt grew heavier. Elias felt their eyes pierce him like blades, but he did not lower his head. He spoke at last, his voice steady though quiet. Earth has no great fleets, no endless armies, Elias admitted. We are young compared to you. But we have always survived. Through storms, wars, hunger, and division, we rise again. We are not strong because of power. We are strong because we refuse to give up. His words carried across the chamber, simple but filled with conviction. For a moment, there was silence. Some leaders studied him more carefully, their suspicion softening just slightly. Others shook their heads, unimpressed. Queen Sirathis spoke again. You call them fragile, yet they endure more hardship than many ancient races ever faced. The Thalistian people have watched humanity rise from fire and struggle. The prophecy is not only a tale. It is a mirror to what they already are. Still, the doubts remained. Seeds of mistrust were already planted, and enemies were quick to water them. That evening, when the council dismissed, Elias was guided to private chambers within the palace. The halls of Thales were filled with shimmering crystal and flowing streams of light. Alien servants bowed as he passed, but their eyes were full of questions. Some looked at him with admiration, others with suspicion. Inside his chamber, Elias paced. He thought of his words in the council. Had he spoken strongly enough? Had he shown the truth of humanity? Or had he only made their enemies laugh louder? The prophecy felt like a chain around his neck, pulling him into battles he did not yet understand. Later, one of the queen's advisors came to visit. Her name was Alanya, a tall Thalistian with markings of silver running down her arms. She studied Elias with calm eyes. "You spoke with honesty today," she said. "That is rare in this chamber. Many rulers dress their words in power, but you spoke simply. It is why some already respect you." Elias sighed. "And others see me as nothing but a weak intruder." Alanya tilted her head. "Respect is not born in a single day. It must be proven. The council will not believe in prophecy alone. They will test you. And when that time comes, you must show them not just who you are, but what your people are." Her words stayed with him long after she left. Across the city, rumors grew. Some whispered that the human envoy was the chosen one of the old legend. Others called him a fraud protected by the queen's favor. Markets, halls, and even military stations buzzed with debate. Humanity, once unknown, was now at the center of galactic attention. Lord Varric and his Kryth Dominion were especially displeased. Behind closed doors, he spoke with his generals. "If this human becomes a symbol, it will unite races against us. We cannot allow that. We must show the galaxy that humans are weak, and that prophecy is nothing but a lie." The seeds of doubt had not only taken root in the council, they were being sharpened into weapons. Back in his chamber, Elias stood at the window, looking out at the shining city. He thought of Earth, of oceans and forests, of cities filled with ordinary people who had no idea their fate was now discussed by powers across the stars. He clenched his fists. They might doubt him, but he would not let them doubt humanity. For the first time since stepping onto Thales, Elias felt the fire inside him grow stronger. The galaxy could test him, question him, even mock him. But he would show them. Humans had always been underestimated, and yet they always endured. And soon, the galaxy would see that endurance for itself. Yes, in the Galactic Council did not end with words. Doubtful rulers demanded proof. If the Queen claimed the human was worthy of respect and possibly linked to prophecy, then he would need to demonstrate it. Prophecy alone was not enough in a galaxy ruled by power, fleets, and victories. The opportunity came sooner than expected. A messenger entered the council chamber, his voice shaking with urgency. "A border world is under attack. The machine swarm advances again. They destroy colonies without warning." The words brought heavy silence. All knew of the swarm. They were ancient machines, remnants of a forgotten war, endlessly spreading like locusts. Many fleets had tried to fight them, yet battles often ended with heavy losses. Lord Varric of the Kryth Dominion rose at once. "Let the human prove himself. If his species is so strong, let him lead a defense. Then we will see if the Queen's prophecy has meaning or if it is a hollow tale." The chamber buzzed. Some nodded in agreement, others frowned at the harshness. Queen Sirathis stood calm, her silver eyes glimmering. She looked at Elias. The council demands proof. Will you accept this challenge? Elias felt his stomach twist. He was not a grand commander of fleets. He had trained as a soldier and later as a captain, but the idea of leading alien fleets against a terrifying enemy was overwhelming. Yet he also knew this was not a choice. To refuse would be to confirm the doubts, to let humanity be dismissed before they had even begun. He drew a breath, steadying himself. I will accept, he said. The council chamber erupted with noise. Some laughed, believing it would be his doom. Others whispered that perhaps the prophecy would be tested sooner than they thought. The queen gave a small nod, her face unreadable. Soon, Elias found himself aboard a Thalistian command ship. The fleet gathered at the edge of the system, a vast assembly of alien warships from several empires. Many captains doubted him, and their voices carried through the communication lines. Why should we follow a human? He has no experience with machine swarms. This is a waste. Elias listened, but he did not let the words shake him. Instead, he studied the reports. The swarm was moving toward a colony world, its people trapped with little chance of escape. He remembered the faces of people back on Earth, ordinary families who had always endured hardship. He thought of them as he planned. When the battle began, the swarm came like a storm. Endless black shapes poured from the void, their metallic wings reflecting the stars. They attacked in perfect unity, without fear, without hesitation. Alien commanders responded with practiced strategies, but the machines adapted quickly, overwhelming their lines. Chaos spread through the fleet. Ships broke formation, and commanders shouted over each other. It was in this storm of confusion that Elias stepped forward. Listen to me, he said firmly through the communication network. Stop trying to match them with order. They are machines. They predict order. We must be unpredictable. Some ignored him, but others hesitated, willing to try. Elias gave quick instructions, suggesting maneuvers that seemed reckless, breaking formations, feigning retreats, and striking from angles the machines could not anticipate. It was not the style of grand empires, but it was the style of humanity, survival through creativity. Slowly, the tide began to shift. The machines, designed to counter logic and pattern, struggled against sudden changes. A Thalistian cruiser feigned damage, luring a swarm into a trap, while smaller ships darted unpredictably through the battlefield, striking and retreating. Elias coordinated with instinct, his voice calm though his heart pounded. The fleet listened more and more as they saw results. What had begun as chaos turned into a strange, new rhythm, messy yet effective. Hours later, when the last of the swarm withdrew, the colony world still stood. Casualties had been far fewer than in past battles. The fleet, though shaken, had survived. And at the center of it all was the human who had dared to think differently. When they returned to council, the chamber was filled with noise once again. Some leaders still refused to believe. They called the victory luck, or the work of stronger ships. But many others had seen the truth with their own eyes. Queen Sirathis rose from her throne. You saw the machines retreat. You saw the human lead when others faltered. This is no accident. This is what humanity is. Their strength is not in numbers or weapons. It is in their spirit, in their refusal to surrender, in their ability to find light where others see only darkness. Elias stood silent at her side, exhausted but unbroken. He had not asked for prophecy, Yet he had proven something undeniable: humans, small though they were, could stand against the impossible. And for the first time, even some of his enemies began to wonder if the prophecy might truly be alive. The council chamber was quieter than before. The memory of the recent battle against the machine swarm still weighed on every ruler present. For the first time, many of them had seen a human lead a fleet and turn certain defeat into survival. Even those who doubted could not deny what had happened. Captain Elias stood at the center of the chamber once again. His uniform was torn from battle, his eyes tired, yet he carried himself with dignity. He had not come seeking glory, but now the galaxy looked at him differently. Some saw him with new respect, others with fear, and a few with envy. Queen Sirathis rose slowly from her crystal throne. Her silver eyes rested on Elias with a calm expression, but there was a quiet warmth in her gaze. She spoke, and the chamber listened. "You all question why I honored this human the moment he entered our hall," she said. "You wonder why I bent my knee before him, though I kneel to no ruler or empire. It is time that you know the truth." The chamber hushed. Even Lord Varric of the Kryth Dominion, who despised the human, leaned forward with sharp attention. The queen lifted her hand, and a wave of light swept across the chamber. A vision appeared in the air, formed from ancient memory crystals. It showed a blue planet, its oceans vast, its forests green, its mountains proud. Elias felt his breath catch. It was Earth. Gasps filled the room. Many rulers had never seen the human homeworld before. To them, it was a small and distant place, barely known in records. "Our ancestors found this world long ago," Sirathis revealed. "We did not make contact, but we observed. What we saw left us in silence. This species, though fragile, survived storms that would have ended others. They fought endless wars among themselves, yet they always rebuilt. They faced hunger, sickness, and fire, yet never surrendered. Humanity became a mirror of resilience." Elias felt his chest tighten. To think that his people had been watched long before they ever touched the stars was both unsettling and humbling. The queen continued. "Most of you do not know this. We hid our records, waiting for the right time. We waited for the day humans would leave their home and join the galaxy. For we believed they carried something unique. A strength not found in fleets or weapons, but in their will to endure." The rulers whispered to one another. Some looked surprised, others doubtful, but all were listening. Elias could not stay silent. "So you honored me because of what my people endured?" he asked. His voice was steady but filled with emotion. Sirathis nodded. "Yes. The moment I saw you, I remembered the faces of your kind struggling against impossible odds, yet refusing to fall. The prophecy was not simply a myth. It was born from what we witnessed. You are not just a new species at the council table. You are the living proof of what resilience means." Lord Varric rose sharply. "This is manipulation. You glorify weakness. Survival through struggle is no greatness, it is the way of all lesser races. Strength is conquest. Strength is power." Sirathis turned her gaze on him. "And yet your conquests crumble when met with hardship. You seek easy victories. Humanity has never known ease, yet still they rise. That is why they are dangerous to those who fear change. And that is why I honored him." The chamber grew tense. Some leaders sided quietly with Varric, others with Sirathis. The balance of the council seemed to shift like a great storm building on the horizon. Elias stood still, his thoughts racing. He had never asked for this role, never asked to be the symbol of a prophecy. Yet part of him began to understand. Humanity had always been underestimated, but now the galaxy was finally seeing what endurance meant. Later, in the quiet of his chamber, Elias looked out once more at the shining city of Thales. He thought of Earth, of children playing in streets, of families working hard to build a future, of soldiers and workers who kept pushing forward no matter the hardship. That was the true power of humanity, and if the galaxy needed to see it, then he would carry it. He realized that the Queen's kneeling had not been a gift. It had been a challenge. She had placed a weight upon his shoulders, a weight that now he must learn to carry. And deep in his heart, Elias knew one truth: he would not let his people down. The galaxy did not rest after the Queen's revelation. News of the human who led fleets and carried prophecy spread across star systems. Markets echoed with stories, and academies studied the battle tactics Elias had used. Some admired him, calling him a symbol of hope. Others whispered warnings, claiming he was a dangerous spark that could change the balance of power. But not all whispers were harmless. In the hidden halls of the Kryth Dominion, Lord Varric's anger burned. He could not accept that a human, a species so young, had been honored above ancient empires. To him, Elias was not a hero but a threat. In a dark chamber lit by red flame crystals, Varric spoke with his advisors. Their voices were low, their tones sharp. If the galaxy begins to believe this prophecy, then humanity will rise. If humanity rises, our dominion weakens. We cannot allow it, Varric said. One of his generals leaned forward. Then we strike. Not in open war, but in silence. Remove the human, and the prophecy falls with him. So the conspiracy began. Elias, unaware of the shadow forming against him, continued his days in the palace of Thales. He attended council debates, spoke with leaders, and walked through the shining halls where alien citizens looked at him with a mixture of awe and curiosity. Children pointed and whispered, merchants bowed, and soldiers saluted. Yet among the respect, Elias also felt the heavy eyes of suspicion. One evening, as the twin suns set and the city glowed with rivers of light, Elias stood on a balcony. Alanya, the Queen's advisor, joined him. She studied his quiet face. "You are restless," she said gently. Elias nodded. "The more I speak, the heavier the burden grows. They look at me as if I am already something greater than I am. But I am only one man." Alanya gave a faint smile. "Sometimes one man can carry the hope of many. Do not forget, Captain, hope is more powerful than fleets. It inspires hearts. That is why some fear you." Her words were true. Fear was already moving in the shadows. The attempt came during a summit. Leaders gathered in a hall of crystal pillars, speaking of trade routes and defense lines. Elias sat near the Queen, listening, when suddenly the lights flickered. A faint hum rose in the air. The guards tensed, their weapons ready. Without warning, small drones burst from the shadows of the ceiling. They darted like steel insects, their blades shining under the light. Chaos erupted. Council members shouted, guards rushed to defend, and the drones dived toward their target Elias. For a split second, Elias froze. Then instinct took over. He grabbed the nearest guard's fallen weapon and fired, striking one drone from the air. Another came close, its blades spinning, but before it could strike, Alanya leapt forward, her staff glowing as she smashed it aside. The chamber filled with flashes of energy as drones swarmed. Elias moved quickly, fighting not with polished skill but with raw survival instinct. His movements were not perfect, yet they were unpredictable, and that saved him. A drone slashed across his shoulder, but he pushed through the pain, rolling under its next strike and blasting it apart. More guards joined, surrounding him. But what shocked the chamber most was not Elias defending himself, it was the sight of alien leaders rising from their seats to protect him. A Lumerian elder unleashed a wave of light that blinded the drones, while a Thalissian captain cut down attackers with his spear. Leaders who once doubted him now stood in his defense, as if inspired by his refusal to fall. At last, the final drone fell in sparks. The hall was left in silence, filled with smoke and heavy breathing. Elias lowered the weapon, his chest rising and falling with exhaustion. The queen stepped forward, her voice steady. This was no accident. Someone fears the rise of humanity. Elias looked around. He saw the faces of those who had fought beside him. In that moment, he understood something important. The true strength of humanity was not in standing alone, but in uniting others. His courage had moved them to fight with him. That was why the prophecy mattered. Lord Varric sat across the chamber, his red eyes narrow. He said nothing, but Elias felt the hatred burning in his gaze. He knew the Kryth Dominion had a hand in this attack, even if no proof yet existed. Later, as he tended to his wounds, Elias thought deeply. He had survived not through power, but because others believed enough to stand with him. This was humanity's gift, the ability to inspire unity where division ruled. And though the attempt had failed, Elias knew more shadows would come. The galaxy was watching, and the enemies of humanity were sharpening their blades. The council chamber was tense, yet alive with expectation. Weeks had passed since the failed assassination attempt, and every ruler in the galaxy knew that Captain Elias had survived by skill, courage, and the unity he inspired among allies. Now, the final gathering of the Galactic Council would decide humanity's place among the stars. Elias stood near Queen Cyrithis, his uniform repaired but still bearing faint marks of battle. He had grown in confidence, though he remained humble. He had faced doubt, fought in battle, and endured shadows of conspiracy, but nothing had shaken the resolve of his heart. Humanity had survived for millennia on Earth, and now their story had reached across the galaxy. The chamber filled with rulers from every empire. Some had seen the humans' courage firsthand, others had only heard the stories. Murmurs passed through the crowd. The air was thick with tension, but Elias did not waver. He met the eyes of each leader, not with arrogance, but with calm determination. Queen Cyrithis rose from her throne. Her voice carried across the chamber like a clear bell. The galaxy has witnessed what this human has done. He has survived where many would fall. He has led fleets against the swarm, and he has united others against threats we have long faced alone. Captain Elias is not just a messenger of Earth. He is a symbol of resilience and courage. The chamber fell silent. Even Lord Varric of the Kryth Dominion looked unsettled. His red eyes glimmered with anger, yet there was no denying the truth he had witnessed. The human had survived attempts on his life, had inspired others, and had shown the galaxy that strength is not always in weapons or numbers, but in willpower and unity. The Queen continued, her gaze sweeping across the council. Humanity has endured hardships greater than many civilizations. They rebuild where others would surrender. They create hope where others see despair. This is their power, and it is now time for the galaxy to recognize it. Elias felt his chest tighten. He had not come to seek praise. He had come to speak for his people, to show that humans wished to belong, to contribute, and to cooperate. Yet now the galaxy looked at him as a representative of something greater, a beacon of humanity itself. One by one, rulers began to rise. Some knelt before the queen and extended gestures of respect toward Elias. Others spoke words of approval and acknowledgement. Even those who had doubted now nodded in recognition, seeing the human not as weak, but as extraordinary in a way their ancient species had never expected. Lord Varric stood, his red eyes narrowing, yet even he could not deny what had happened. With a deep breath, he inclined his head slightly toward Elias, a gesture of reluctant respect. It was small, but it was a start. The room was filled with a sense of unity that had never existed before. The galaxy, once divided by pride and mistrust, had found a reason to look beyond appearances. Humanity, once fragile and overlooked, was now recognized as a force that could inspire hope, courage, and cooperation. Elias looked at Queen Cyrithis. She gave a small nod, her expression calm yet proud. He realized then that the kneeling she had done when he first arrived was more than respect, it had been faith. Faith in what humans could become and in what they had already endured. He thought of Earth, of the oceans, the forests, the mountains, and the cities filled with ordinary people who had worked hard, struggled, and never given up. They were the real heroes, the unseen strength behind his presence. And now, their resilience was acknowledged across the stars. The Council formally declared humanity as an equal participant in the Galactic Council. From that moment, Earth was no longer a small, distant planet. Humans could now speak for themselves, defend their people, and contribute to the future of the galaxy. Elias stepped forward and addressed the chamber, his voice clear and steady. We are not here because we are the strongest or the oldest. We are here because we endure. We rise when we fall. We create hope where others see none. That is humanity's gift, and we will use it to help this galaxy thrive, together. The rulers listened, captivated. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of centuries of struggle, survival, and perseverance. And as the chamber erupted in applause and approval, Elias felt a quiet pride. Not for himself, but for humanity. For every person who had faced hardship, for every family who had endured, for every child who had dreamed. Humanity had arrived among the stars not with domination, but with courage, unity, and hope. Queen Cyrithis stepped beside him once more. This time, she did not kneel. Instead, she extended her hand in friendship. The gesture was accepted by leaders across the galaxy. It was a new beginning. The human race had claimed its place among the stars, and the galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget: strength is measured not only by power, but by the spirit that refuses to break. And thus, humanity's dawn among the stars had truly begun.